Jen here, welcome to the channel. I've had a few people ask me if the Royal Enfield Himalayan is a good beginner bike, so that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, so let's get to it. All right, let's start by talking a little bit about the bike itself. This is the 2022 Royal Enfield Himalayan, and we're going to talk about the weight of the bike, the size of the bike, and the power of the bike. All right, she weighs a hefty 439 pounds. Seat height is 31.5 inches, and she is run by a 411cc air-cooled engine. Now let's talk about what you might be considering as a beginner rider. As a beginner rider, the three most important things I think you need to consider are, number one, the terrain that you're going to be riding on, number two, the distance you plan on traveling, and number three, if you plan on riding by yourself. So let's talk terrain. If you plan for the majority of your riding experience to be off-road, the weight of this bike should be a huge consideration for you, and it also might be a deterrent. At 439 pounds, riding this beast off-road, if you pick it or if you drop it, you're gonna have to be able to pick it up. If you drop it multiple times, you're gonna have to pick it up multiple times. However, if you plan to mainly stay on-road, perhaps use the bike as more of a commuter bike, a couple things you might want to take into consideration are the comfort of the bike and the seat height. The reason the seat height would be important in this circumstance, as well as off-road, is if it allows you to put your feet on the ground. A lot of bikes actually don't. A lot of riders will be sitting on a bike that's up high and they'll have to lean to the side to put their feet on the ground. The Himalayan, however, with its 31.5-inch seat height, is low to the ground. You can see I can almost flat foot the ground on both sides. As a beginner rider, the seat height was one of my biggest considerations. I stand at 5'8". I have a 31.5-inch inseam, and this seat height is perfect because it's also at 31.5 inches. For longer rides, comfort should be a huge consideration for you. I had no idea what to expect as far as comfort, but I can now tell you that the Himalayan is the most comfortable bike I have ever ridden. So why is it the most comfortable bike I've ever ridden? Because the seat is freaking awesome. Look at how cushy that thing is. It is great. My butt does not go numb after 200 miles on this thing. If you're gonna be riding by yourself, you've gotta be able to pick this thing up all by yourself. Off-road, it's gonna happen more than once. Heck, it could even happen on-road. So let's see if we can do this. Looks like a piece of cake, doesn't it? So I made that look pretty easy, didn't I? Well, check out these clips. So I gotta tell you at this point, oh, here we go. I'm gonna put the kickstand down so that when I can get it over, it'll catch itself. I am like in a hole though, so this is gonna be extremely challenging. Man, we're really in a hole here. I think I just want to get it up high enough that the handlebars are up on this ledge here. Holy cow. We are really in it this time, folks. That's not happening. All right. Well, I gotta think, if I was out here by myself, what is my move here? This sucker's heavy and it's in a hole. So.
Yeah, I think it's in the ditch, isn't it? You ready?
I don't need.
Can you get something? Can you get a hand in there? Something to grab onto, huh? Here we go.
All right, folks, this is like super deep. If I stop here, I am going to get stuck. Alright, we've made it through. Holy cow. Oh, here we go again, deep sand. Damn. Oh, hey, it's not in a ditch. We're gonna be all right. We're just in a hell of a sand pit. So, let's get there upright. I think this one will be a little easier than the last time, although I am still inclined. Oh. We can do this. Come on, Alice. Put your back into it. I swear I've picked this bike up before. It like feels like I've never even done it. All right, I have got to be able to get this bike up. I have to. Oh my God. Let's try this again.
You want a hand or you want to stay back?
Stay back for a sec. I might take a hand in a minute.
Walk it back, remember?
Yeah, I'm trying. It's like I'm squatting too low.
Yeah, you too. You need to sit on top of the seat. That's what you want to sit right there.
I'm just sinking in the sand.
That's what happened with the Royal Army. Okay.
Okay, where I got it. Alright. I think if I can just keep myself out of ruts, I'll probably... Alright. Oh man, here's a problem. See, I'm going to bring her back up and she's going to want to fall right into that like crap right there. So maybe I need to drag her around a little bit. So as you can see, the weight of the bike can be a little bit more challenging than you might think. So let's go for a ride. So the 2022 Himalayan came with this really cool tripper navigation system, which I was pretty excited about. It's actually the reason I didn't go with the cheaper 2021 model at the time. As you can see right here on this little screen, it's displaying where I need to go. It's very clear, very simple. So I really like that. I haven't used it as much as I thought I was going to, but I'm sure I still will. We just haven't gotten into a lot of places where we don't know where we're going. So, but that's definitely yet to come. Another thing that the bike came with was anti-lock brakes, which you can also choose to shut off if you choose to do so, such as in some extreme off-roading circumstances or whatnot. And the third little thing it came with that a lot of bikes don't is a windshield. So that has really helped, definitely keeping the wind off me while I'm riding. That's very handy. If you don't have a windshield on your bike, it makes riding quite uncomfortable. So those are three things that the 2022 Himalayan came with that I find really nice. So the reason I started looking at getting a bigger bike was because Dave actually got a bigger bike. He moved up to the KLR 650 and I needed a bike that could keep pace with that one. So the Royal Enfield Himalayan is not a fast bike by any means, but I can keep up with the KLR pretty well. Definitely better than the TW could. When we went and picked up the Himalayan down in Las Vegas, I was very intimidated. The bike is much bigger than the TW200. I was nervous to even sit on it. I didn't ride it at the dealership. I had some help loading it up onto the trailer that we had brought down to pick it up. And so the first time I rode it was out of my driveway, but it was the most incredible thing when I first started riding that bike. I had this overwhelmingly comfortable feeling. The bike felt super stable, even more so than the TW. I had recently been riding the Yamaha XT250 rather than the TW200 in anticipation for getting a bigger bike. I wanted to ride the XT250 because it is bigger than the TW. But this bike, the Himalayan, is so much more comfortable feeling than the XT250. Not just the seat comfort, but the lower center of gravity makes it just feel like you're floating. It feels like this bike wants to stay up. It doesn't sway, it's not top heavy. I think these things are really important being a new rider. So if you are looking for a bike mainly for commuter purposes, as you can see, you stop at stoplights. I can put my feet on the ground easily to stabilize the bike. I feel comfortable sitting here. The bike's very agile. You can move in and out of traffic easily. It's not fast though, so lane filtering isn't really something I do on this bike. And our Tripper navigation system has gotten us to my set destination, which was this Maverick here. So then it just turns itself off and turns it back into a clock until the next destination. A lot of people purchasing bikes right now because of the high fuel prices. So the Himalayan gets great gas mileage. It has about a 230-mile range, has a 4-gallon tank, and because it's lower to the ground, all that fuel sitting where it is, I think it helps with the stability of the bike. One thing I found that I really like is the gear display. It shows you what gear you're in. Right now I'm in 4th gear. I use that quite a bit, especially when I'm off-roading. If I see a hill coming up, I just kind of glance at that, make sure I'm in a low enough gear to climb that hill. I mean, you should feel it really, but I still glance at it. I still find it helpful, and I miss it when I'm riding the XT250. So if you're considering the Himalayan and you're a beginner and you're going to use it as a commuter bike, I think I've covered the things that you really need to know. The bike is extremely comfortable, it's extremely agile, and most people could probably put their feet on the ground, which helps out greatly at stoplights and whatnot. So I think the last thing I'll mention about being on the asphalt is that it is not a fast bike, and I know I did say that before. But coming up, I'm going to do a 0 to 60 to show you exactly what I mean, and then I'll talk a little bit more about that. All right, we're going to do a 0 to 60 now, so here we go. I got about 17 seconds on that. So as you can see, the Himalayan is not a fast bike. That being said, I have gotten the bike up to 75 miles an hour. I feel comfortable riding on the interstate. Dave and I have done some long trips. I have had to shift down into 4th gear actually on some hill climbs because I've dropped below 50 miles an hour. So that might be something to take into consideration if you want to do some long trips. I purchased the bike for, I think the sticker price was $52.99, and that was brand new in early 2022. I think I was out the door about $6,700 after, you know, taxes, title, licensing, all that jazz. So they're a very affordable bike. So that is another thing. As a new rider, finding something affordable I think is important because, I mean, heck, you might not like riding. You know, do you want to consider a giant investment? Well, I think I've mentioned about everything I can about asphalt riding as far as I can think of. So let's get into some off-road riding, and I'll show you a little bit about the performance and talk about that. Oh boy, we've got mud. We've had a lot of moisture here in southern Utah the last few days, so we may encounter a little bit on this little jaunt today. Well, as a new rider, you are going to want to get comfortable standing up on your bike. It increases your line of sight as well as your maneuverability. So foot pegs will be important to you. The Himalayan comes with some very nice foot pegs. I've never had discomfort in my feet riding. However, Dave did just change out the foot pegs on the XT250 to some wider ones, and they're pretty nice. They're like noticeably comfortable. So I might eventually switch those out, but I don't know that you really need to do that. But it is something you're going to want to consider if you plan on doing a lot of off-road riding. So the Himalayan comes standard with some Indian-made tires. I believe they're the Seat Pro X tires. And they worked out really well for me for a long time. I just switched them out because they were getting some wear on them, but they lasted me a good 2,500 miles, and I'm sure I probably could have gotten 3,000 miles on them if I would have pushed it, but I was ready to try something new anyways. I'm rocking the Shinko 804-805 combo now, and I've been really impressed with those tires so far. But the Himalayan does come stock with some pretty dang good tires. So that's something that can't be said for all bikes as well. So that thing I mentioned about when I very first got on this bike and took off going, that stability feeling I had, it is extra comforting on off-road terrain. The bike still feels like it just wants to stay upright. I think it's harder to crash this bike than some other bikes. This bike is not top heavy. It has a very low center of gravity, which really contributes to that stability feeling. I haven't had any problems with the stock suspension on this bike either. I don't find it too squishy. I haven't had to adjust it or anything like that. I've never thought about getting a customized suspension. It seems to handle just fine. It's comfortable. When I first purchased the Himalayan, my thought I had in my head was I want to be able to do really long rides and keep pace with Dave on his KLR and handle some dirt road situations, but I really had just some moto camping and some long rides in mind. I have since put way more off-road miles on this bike than I ever anticipated doing. That being said, if I was a lone rider by myself doing as much off-road riding as I have ended up doing, I don't know that I would have gone with the Royal Enfield Himalayan. I don't know that I would recommend it as a beginner bike if you're riding strictly off-road and by yourself. The reason being is just because of that weight. You saw me pick it up in the grass. That was easy once you learn how to pick up a bike. If you don't know how to pick up a bike, it's going to be difficult no matter what. But once you learn how to pick it up, it's pretty easy in level terrain. But as you've seen from those other clips, I really struggled on my last ride. I was only able to get the bike up once by myself. Dave had to help me do it the 2 other times because I was in some deep sand and on some angles and like in a ditch. And even grabbing a hold of the bike and trying to turn it around by myself and whatnot, it was so hard. It was so much more difficult than what you can imagine. So if you are riding off-road by yourself, I may not recommend this as a beginner bike. I hear my squeaky brake. That's my rear brake. It is a wider turn radius on this bike than it was on the TW200, but I don't have too much of a struggle turning it around. I've really taken this bike into some terrain that I never thought that I'd bring a big heavy bike into, but that's the thing that comes with building your skill. You know, once you ride the bike for a while, once you wreck it a few times, learn how to pick it up, you're gonna try new things, you're gonna take it to new places, and so far I haven't found a place that this bike doesn't outperform its rider. This bike does corner very nice as well. I think that has another thing to do with its low center of gravity. Doesn't want to tip over.
So Jen, would you recommend a Royal Enfield Himalayan to a new rider?
In almost every circumstance, I would have to say yes. The bike's very affordable. It is the most comfortable bike I have ever been on. And as far as smooth riding and stability, it doesn't get better than this, both on-road and off-road. The one exception to this was if you are a smaller rider and you're out there in the dirt all by yourself, you might want to consider a lighter bike because this is a heavy beast to pick up. All right, I think that about sums it up. If you have any specific questions or if you'd like to share any of your experiences that you have had with the Royal Enfield Himalayan, please leave them in the comments section. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It really helps us out. We'll see you next time. Jen out.